Welcome to Season 4 of Shift Out Loud. This podcast is your invitation to play bigger. What does that mean? It means letting go of the self-limiting beliefs that keep you from stepping into your most powerful version of yourself. My favorite conversations are with people who have made that shift and they move about the world differently because of it. Their setbacks served as a catalyst to change their circumstances, make new decisions, and shift their course. And I hope it inspires you to do the same. So listen in, get inspired, and know I'm right here cheering you on. Hey there, I'm Tracy Spears, speaker, author, advocate, and head cheerleader for anyone wanting to play bigger. I'm super excited to introduce you to this week's guest, Mica Chavez. Mica, also known as Mica, is a chef that lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She is originally from El Paso, Texas. Her maternal grandmother and mother are both excellent cooks who influenced how she cooks today, which she said includes start with fresh ingredients and cook with love. I love that. She also lived in Gallup, New Mexico, where her father would take her to the desert looking for artifacts. That created a passion for history and furthered her passion for food and cooking. In the late 70s, her family moved to the San Francisco Bay Area just as the food and wine movement in the Napa Valley, Sonoma, and San Francisco was beginning, and that close proximity had a huge influence on how her family ate in terms of quality and freshness of ingredients. Mica then moved back to El Paso, where she became the executive chef of a restaurant called Cafe Central, where she gained international attention, as well as having a regular cooking segment on the local ABC affiliate. In 2003, she was chosen as the chef de cuisine, I hope I said that right, for the PGA Champions Dinner at Rochester, New York. That's a big deal. Let's talk about that. She's cooked for 4 U.S. presidents and 1 Mexican president, cooked in 8 countries, and has been featured on CNN, CBS, and was named one of the 100 notable women in New Mexico. She's taught culinary arts at all levels from K through 12 and created a high-performing culinary program at the community college in Santa Fe. She's taught gardening, history, run the school lunch program, managed the food garden at the middle high school charter school, and caters and mentors inspiring and aspiring chefs. For fun, she likes to windsurf, kayak, downhill ski, hike with her rescue dogs. Let's talk about those. Is a gardener and rabid. She holds a master's degree in sustainable food systems and feels that it is vital that we teach the future generations about the miracle that is soil. So Mica, listen, that's a lot for us to talk about. Welcome to the show. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me. And it took a minute for us to coordinate, but I'm glad we did.
We have been trying to do this for 3 months. Shout out to Mary Fitzgerald, who planted your name in my ear. And like every time I would see her, she'd be like, have you spoken to Mica yet? And I was like, we're trying to make it work. So I'm glad.
She's the sweetest. She's one of the absolute nicest people.
For sure. Yeah. So how did you meet her? Let's just start with her.
I'm one of the chefs on staff at the Santa Fe School of Cooking here in Santa Fe. It's a high-end recreational cooking school. And I believe Mary and a group of her friends or her family came in. And I always mention during my classes that I do private chef work. And so she asked me if I would want to cook for her family, and I did. I think they have a house here, if I'm not mistaken. They have a family house here.
I think so. I think you're right.
And so I went over there, and I think I cooked for her son first, and then I cooked for her. And she's like, "You have to meet my friend Tracy." That's what she sounds like, but you get the idea.
I do get the idea. Well, I mean, it was the first thing she said after she met you, and I'm super glad. And I'm, next time I get to Santa Fe, I'll hopefully get to participate in one of your dinners. And before we get to there, so the podcast is Shift Out Loud. In the pre-talk for the audience, we were talking about some of the audience, the people that you've listened to before. Right. So you get the point that like what. The premise of this is those things that happened to you that shifted the way you moved about the world, that changed you a bit. And you have a lot of those as I was reading through your bio. Sure. So, yeah. So start. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think I should start where I feel like my life began again. And that was the day that I was blessed with the gift of desperation and went to my first 12-step meeting.
Wow. I did not see that coming. Let's do it. I love that. Tell me more.
I was basically unhireable. I was living on a friend's couch and about ready to lose that too. And I realized that if I didn't make some serious changes immediately, I probably wasn't going to live very much longer.
How old were you when that happened, Mica?
37. And what that did for me, because I mean, the funny thing is the hospitality industry seems to embrace addiction to a certain extent. It embraces big personalities, which I definitely have. It embraces all of the dysfunction that people can bring. And to a certain extent, it promotes it a little bit.
What leads to that?
Chefs are pretty volatile people. Artists in general are volatile people. Now, I don't
Creative.
necessarily consider myself an artist, but I definitely was blessed, born, cursed with that temperament. And, I think people who are artistic in nature tend to be very, very sensitive. And that's certainly me, believe it or not. And,
I believe it already.
I just got to the point where I knew if I didn't change some things in my life that it was going to be over, and it was only a matter of when. And so, this friend of mine compared me to a naked chihuahua in a snowstorm.
Wow.
I was scared of everything. I was scared of my shadow. I didn't know how to handle any sort of feelings, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. No tools. None. When you see everything through the lens of a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And that's how I lived my life for a really long time. And even though I was kind of a mess, I had really good success professionally. And it seemed like the messier my personal life got, the better my professional life got. And I was in El Paso at the time, and was just really, or no, I left El Paso, moved up here to Santa Fe to kind of start a new life. And I didn't know in recovery circles that people call that a geographical.
Okay, I don't know that either. So tell us more.
Basically, wherever you are, there you go. Wherever you go, there you are. Um, and that's how I ended up. And I woke up one morning after a near fatal car accident, and basically having lost everything. I had no house. I sold my house. I had no car. I had no friends. I mean, it was about as low as a person can get. And I thought, one of my favorite movies is Shawshank Redemption. And there's a line out of that movie: "Get busy living or get busy dying." And I had that conversation with myself. And not too long before that, my weight had ballooned. I was up to over 250 pounds, which is 100 pounds away from where I am right now. And my weight had ballooned. I was absolutely miserable. And I just couldn't believe that my life had sunk as low as it did. And I knew that if I didn't shift something in my thinking, in my actions, in my life, in my world, that it was all going to come crashing down around me. And it was starting to. I never got in any legal trouble, thank God. And that was really more out of luck than anything. I had to look at the way that I was processing things. Is this a feeling or is this a fact? And I had to be able to tell the difference between feelings and facts. And I had no ability to sit with two conflicting emotions at the same time and not feel like I was coming out of my skin. So I underwent this journey. I don't know how I found the place where the meetings were happening. I don't remember calling and finding out. I don't remember anything actually from that point. From that time period. I don't. There's nothing.
So you woke up that day and the journey started, or did you go in and out of the program? Tell me more about that. It was,
One and done. Thank God.
wow.
Thank God. I was desperate.
Yeah,
And when people in recovery say the gift of desperation, it really truly is a gift, because if you don't get there, you're probably not going to be able to stay in recovery, because you'll always be wondering, do I have one more? Do I have one more? I've done all the research I need to do in that department.
understood.
I have no more drunks left in me. And for that, I am very grateful.
Wow.
At that point, I started rebuilding my life brick by brick. And I don't mean to say or to imply that it was easy in any way, shape, or form. It absolutely was not. Um, but the way that I was living wasn't easy either. And so you got to pick your hards.
That's right.
And so I picked my hard, and my hard was, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to college. And so I was tired of working in restaurants. I had burned myself out. I had made a lot of money for a lot of people. I got international press. I did the PGA Champions dinner. I had all of the trappings of incredible success. And when I tried to apply the same success level that I had in El Paso here in Santa Fe, it utterly failed. So I went to this local college, and I talked to one of the advisors, and she said, "Look, it's been a long time since you've been in college. Why don't you go to the community college and do your lower level prereqs? English, math, science, blah, blah, blah." So, okay. I went to the testing center at the community college, and I tested into basic math, basic English. I mean, I've got a 147 IQ. This is not fucking easy for me. I'm like, are you kidding me? What, you don't realize, you didn't get the memo? I'm a genius? So they didn't. And so I started at day one, square one, level one, no money. Like literally, I got a small scholarship for $300, and that bought my books for my first semester and paid my tuition.
Well, that's a lot of humility, isn't it?
Girl, had I not gone through that process, every other thing after that would have been different. And when you're literally scraping the bottom emotionally, there's no place to go but up. And I wasn't going to accept that I'm done yet. I just didn't feel like, okay, I'm not done yet. I have a lot more to do in this life. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it is. I just know that I cannot maintain the way that I was living and expect to live even another year.
Was there an intervention that night that happened, or you just got that low that, were you working at that point? Okay. How were you living?
On somebody's couch. And I think I had sold my house in El Paso, so I had a little bit of money, and I was living on somebody's couch. I think my parents were actually helping me at that point. I don't, again, I really don't remember. I know I sold my house. I had a little bit of money, and I was doing some odd jobs here and there, and I'd had a job for a little while, but I got fired.
How long had you been practicing, I guess we'll call it, or researching? I don't know. Yes. Yeah. When did that start for you?
Early on, I
As a
knew
kid?
from the first time I drank, it wasn't like everybody else. My behavior changed. And I have friends that drink, they'll have a beer or two, they'll have a glass of wine or two, they'll have a cocktail or two, and it's totally fine because their behavior doesn't change. The people I stay away from are the people whose behavior changes. It's like, okay, gotta go. My sobriety is my business, and I treat it that way. But I'm also not going to sit around and feel uncomfortable while people get really shit-faced. That's not fun for me. It's actually painful for me to watch.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Once I closed that door, I've never reopened it, and I'm scared to death, actually. When I sit in meetings and people talk about relapse and the look of horror in their eyes and shame and guilt about what they have done is enough to keep me on the narrow. I'm not straight.
Okay, good to know.
Enough to keep me on the narrow.
Yeah.
But I went back to school and I started, and I really didn't want to work in restaurants anymore, but I didn't know what else I was going to do. So I started going to school, and I walked down the hallway at the community college and I saw a kitchen. They had a culinary program. I was so
Wow.
close to being out, and they pulled me back in.
Yes.
So I went in and I talked to the lead instructor, and he hired me on the spot. And so I started teaching.
Wow.
And so I was teaching the program as I was going through the program, and I had never done anything I'd never made a hollandaise. I'd never really made a beurre blanc because I had not worked in classically French restaurants. I'd worked in everything else, but I hadn't worked in classically French restaurants or breakfast places that did that kind of stuff. I had to literally teach myself there are 6 classic French mother sauces, and I had to teach them all to myself. I can't even look at hollandaise anymore. I taught there for 11 years. And I took the program from one culinary kitchen lab to 2. We had an organic garden. We were composting, and we had a food truck. We had a cafe where students were paid while they were working on campus, because as an instructor, and then I took over the department, the students that would leave to go to work would never come back. And then we would lose students. It's too easy once you get off campus to be like, I'll go tomorrow. Nobody's going to care. And so I thought, you know what? If we keep them here on campus and they are earning while they are learning, we will have more students completing, and we will have a higher level of ability because they've got that experience. One of my students a year ago got nominated for a James Beard Award.
Wow, that's a big day. Congratulations.
You get those proud mom moments. I'm not a mom, but you get those proud mom moments where you're like,
Yes. Yeah.
there are some students that make you feel like you know what you're doing, and that girl was one of them.
Nice.
Another one of my students took first in the state of New Mexico for a culinary competition, scored 8th in the nation. I've got students running kitchens all over the world now.
Wow. Do you get, is that one of the things you get to do? Do you go visit? Would that be a destination for you that you would go eat in one of their restaurants? Do you do that?
Hell yeah.
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 Nice.
For sure. And it's funny because I haven't taught in a while after COVID. I was teaching at the K through 12 level during COVID. And then when that was done, I stayed on another year teaching, but it did some really nasty things to kids, especially boys. And there were a couple of groups of boys, one group of boys in particular that were in seventh grade that were just feral.
Hmm.
I mean, they had had no socialization for almost a year and a half, and it showed. And I was dealing with an administration who had very differing views on the importance of consequences.
Okay.
And
So what happens? How do you transition out of that? Did you just quit or did you like know what was going to be next?
no, I had no idea.
You're not afraid of that though. It sounds like you're kind of fearless in that.
You know what, girl? I have found that if you put yourself into something with intent, positive intention, and I don't know, it's going to sound weird, but and respect, I guess, for your fellows. And it doesn't really matter who they are. The right situation has always found me. That's never not been true for me. And why that is, I don't know. Maybe I've lived in Santa Fe too long, but I'm a real big believer that you set your attention, and everything you do pulls you away from or pushes you toward that intention.
How do you set your intention? Is that a daily practice for you? Do you have some ritual around that? Do you mind describing it?
I attend very regular 12-step meetings as a tune-up a couple times a week. And when I don't go in person, there are several meetings I attend online. My intention, I mean, part of recovery, and this was a really difficult part for me to wrap my mind around, is there's a spiritual component to it. And the only God, higher power, whatever creator that I knew was punitive. And so trying to accept something positive and create something positive, that was so foreign to me. And so years ago, I was watching a talk show, and I don't watch them very often, but this woman had breast cancer, and like her friends didn't know how to act around her. Like they didn't want to get too close to her, and it's the way that they were dealing with her and her sickness was making her really sad. Like she'd lost this connection with people. And she came home one afternoon after having a really hard chemotherapy round, and there was her dog, and her dog was like sitting there wagging its tail and was so happy to see her. And she wrote a book called There's No Better Medicine Than a Wagging Tail.
True.
And so I thought, okay, what are the characteristics in a higher power that I want to see for myself? They love me unconditionally, they want me to succeed, and they're not going to leave my side. And the only thing that I had in my life at that time that embodied all of those characteristics was my dog. So for the longest time, I would pray to something like that. And then after that, became like I got a little more sophisticated. And so now it's more along the lines of Mother Earth, Father Sky, because these are the things that we derive everything from. So my intention usually is to be the best human being I can be, whatever that looks like, whatever that means for today. Compassion, understanding, kindness, and help me be the best human being I can be today.
Nice.
Because there was a long time I was not a good human being. I was the kind of person that you'd see coming and turn the other way, and people did.
Wow.
Yeah,
How do,
that was
how do you end up in Santa Fe from like take me back to that shift because there's a missing piece there. Why leave El Paso to go to Santa Fe?
so I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was in my late 20s, and my drinking had already started to spiral. I was looking for a change. I was trying to pull a geographical. And my maternal grandmother got really sick. And she was the one that I had always, I mean, she and my grandfather brought me home from the hospital because when I was born, because my mom was sick. So I had a really tight bond with my grandmother. And when it looked like my mom and my aunt were going to put her into a home, I knew that was going to kill her. And she had a lot of years left to go. She wanted to spend them dying in her house. Okay. So I didn't have much going on. And so I moved to El Paso and stayed with her and took care of her, and was there for 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I started a relationship and bought a house. But that whole time, my drinking was spiraling. I was already making really bad choices, and they were starting to have some physical consequences. I knew if I didn't leave El Paso that I was probably not gonna live very much longer. There were a lot of drugs involved, and there was a lot of just really bad behavior.
So you had to remove yourself from the community that you were living in. I understand. Okay.
There's no way I would have been able to get my life back together had I stayed. No way. And I've had several opportunities to go back. And as much as I love El Paso, it's my hometown. I know that if I went back there, even at this point, it would be really a slippery slope for me. So I just don't. I mean, I'll go visit. I have friends there, but living there and working there, that's a slippery slope for me, and I just can't do it. I won't do it.
I love El
So
Paso. I love El Paso too, by the way. I've gone a few times to speak, and the community and the people are so warm and engaging, and so I understand the allure for sure.
Beto O'Rourke is from El Paso, and he was talking about El Paso in such a way, that really kind of made me tear up. I'm like, that's my hometown, and I'm proud. I'm proud to be from El Paso. I know that it's in the news for all the wrong reasons, but the El Paso that I know and love is a wonderful place to live, and it was a great place to work, and I'm grateful 100%. I knew I had to leave, and I didn't want to go back to California. I'd lived in Portland, Oregon for a short period of time, and I thought, well, okay, Portland's all right. And I was also looking at Boston, Mass. I was looking for progressive liberal cities. That's where I feel like I do the best. I don't know that I could live in a very conservative place. I just don't think I could. And so I had friends up here, and it's an easy drive from El Paso. It's 5 hours. I started sending out resumes to restaurants up here, and a local catering company called me and said, "We'd love for you to start." So I was able to kind of step off there and start here. And that's
Nice.
why I chose something that was in proximity, close proximity. So I would work in El Paso Monday through Friday. Friday afternoon, I would get in my car, drive up to Santa Fe, work Saturday, Sunday in Santa Fe, and then drive back on Monday morning to get back from my evening shift in El Paso.
Okay.
And I did that for 3 months, and then moved up here full time.
I totally get the allure of Santa Fe, right? Like, there's a lot
Uh,
of, yeah, yeah, amazing. Now, so when you're there, you go through the pandemic. Transition me your shift out of when you leave the culinary school there. What do you go do then?
so I was teaching at a local charter. And I had a culinary class. I'd started a culinary program and had pretty good success. Like, my sous chef now is a 17-year-old kid that I've known since he was 14, that came up to me one day and is like, I want to work with you. And I'm like, all right.
Nice.
And one of the things I told him, I said, there's a difference between teacher Mica and chef Mica. And you're going to have to put on your big boy panties and deal with this, because I'm not always a very nice person, and I'm not going to apologize for that. So I started about 3 or 4 months before I left the school. I knew I was leaving. I did not care for the new principal or vice principal, and let me back up. I don't know them as people. I did not care for their management style. It didn't work for me, and being in my mid-50s now, I have a pretty good idea of what's gonna work and what's not, and I knew that it was not a tenable situation. So, I'd already started doing private chef work, and my BFF, X, helped me design a website. That's how we all roll. Helped me design a website, and so I got a website up. I started a Facebook page, and slowly but surely, I started getting calls and more calls and more calls and more calls, and now I've got probably 3 clients a week, 2 to
Nice.
3 clients a week. I'm at the Santa Fe School of Cooking, which is a recreational cooking school. I'm there probably 2 or 3 times a week, and there's a spiritual retreat center here where I work also, and I cook there sometimes. So, it's we call this the Santa Fe Shuffle. Everybody in Santa Fe has multiple jobs. It's
Nice.
kind of a gig. I mean, there are some, like, real legit jobs here, but a lot of people in Santa Fe, it's very much a gig economy. And if you can get into the right gigs, you can do pretty well here.
Nice.
And so I've managed to create this opportunity for myself that has just been incredible. I could not have seen my life like this 20 years ago. No way.
Mm.
And, I think taking the first step, walking into the rooms of recovery, that's where everything changed. And sometimes my mom, she's so cute. She's like, Mijita, ever since you started going to those meetings, everything in your life changed.
Nice. Well, I would imagine that, for them, that was really hard to watch you before you went in those rooms. What was your family? I would assume they were aware of how much in the addiction you were, or did you hide that from them?
There was no hiding it.
Okay,
No.
so they knew.
My mom said something. I might cry when I say this, so I just cry. My mom's one time said that she and my dad used to hate it when I would come visit because of all the chaos I would bring. That hurt.
For sure.
But you know what? I needed to hear it. I needed to know, because addiction is a family disease, and my parents are not enablers, and they would not have enabled me for 1 minute. And I kept as much as I could secret, but I was 252 pounds, and I was, and here's the thing with addiction. Unless you get to the core issues that caused you to behave this way in the first place, nothing changes. And it doesn't matter if you are actively using at that moment or not. It's all of the behaviors around it. And that was the key for me. So I do therapy. I attend 12-step meetings. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do whatever I can to try to make myself a better human being, because maybe it's not, maybe other people don't see it this way, but I feel like I've got some atonement to do universally, spiritually, because I was not a nice person for a really long time. Being able to say these kinds of things isn't easy. There's still a little in there, but I know I'm closer to the kind of person I want to be now than I've ever been.
Love
And
that.
it was all one move. It was that one morning that I woke up and said, no more.
Nice. I'm so excited for you that you had that moment, and congratulations. I'm not sure what's the appropriate thing to say
Oh,
about.
that's good.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't. I have someone I care about who is back into the addiction after a decade out of it, and it's heartbreaking. And yet I know that's their journey, and there's nothing you can do. Like, you have to have that moment where, that you had. So if anybody is in the middle of that, like, I mean, what advice do you give people? Like, they walk in and they're going to get their 24-hour, it's the desire chip, I
24-hour
believe.
chip.
What is it
You
called?
know,
What's it called?
24-hour chip,
Yeah.
desire chip,
Yeah.
1,000 days and nights chip.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have several of those, and a couple of them are bent like tacos.
What does that mean?
They're just bent from me holding it and squeezing it so tight. Like, just fucking get me through this. Don't let me pick up, because I know if I pick up, I don't know that I would make it back. And the only advice I have for somebody that knows they need help is reach out. Reach out. Help is there, and it's not easy, and sometimes it's gut-wrenching, but my and this is a common recovery saying too. My worst day in recovery is about 1,000,000 times better than my best day drinking. My life is unbelievable right now. I went skiing yesterday. The day before, I was out riding around in the mountains with this amazing person, in an all-terrain vehicle, going through mud puddles and laughing hysterically. There's a better life out there, and I'm sure I would be willing to bet you dimes for dollars that my parents were bracing themselves for that phone call.
I'm so glad that you are brave enough to jump in here and let's talk about it from the beginning. Tell me about what's next for you. What's the next shift you're looking forward to?
So I don't know. I don't know. I could not have predicted any of these would happen.
Right.
There's a chef that I really admire, and his name is Jamie Oliver. And Jamie Oliver, I don't know if this still happens. And there's a chef here in Santa Fe that's kind of doing the same kind of thing. But I really want to work with. Let me back up a little bit. When this election just happened, I knew that there were going to be a lot of very scared trans people. gay people, I knew that our rights were going to be questioned and in some cases taken away. And so one of the first things I did is I ordered a big trans gay resist flag and I hung it in front of my house. I live on a very busy street and people drive by it every day. And yesterday I was sitting in my front room watching TV and my dogs start going ballistic. And I look out my window and there's a young person, very, very, very thin and long hair. And he's got this look on his face. His eyes are about as big as plates. He goes, I need help. I need help. And I'm like, what? I'll be right there. And I'm not going to let this guy in my house. I don't know who he is. So I go out the door and I figure, okay, if this guy gets weird, I can let my dogs out and they'll take care of business. And so I was talking to him and I said, look, why don't you sit down for a minute? Let's just sit down. No, you're safe. No one's going to hurt you here. Let's talk. He was really scattered. And I said, do you want me to call the police? And he said, yeah. And so I called the police and I had the police talk to him. And long story short, I asked him, why did you come here? What made you feel like you could come to this house? He goes, I knew it was a safe place to be. Nice. And I said, how did you know it was a safe place to be? And he said, your flag. I want to be able to support kids that are going through whatever it is they're going through in terms of sexual identity, gender identity. They're just having a hard time and teach them a skill. So what I would like to see happen is I want to start a farm. I want to start a little farm. I want to compost. I have chickens right outside my window right now. I'm getting eggs. I want to start a farm where kids could come. Maybe, there'll be maybe dorms, maybe not. Maybe have residential facilities. I don't know yet. But I want them to be able to learn to work with plants and animals and soil. Because when you pick up a handful of soil and you smell it, and it's earthy and rich and dark and beautiful, that's a miracle. And we're like soil. It's not one organism, we are many organisms, and we need many things to make us healthy. But I think gardens are a metaphor for a lot. And the reason that they put veterans, like especially combat vets, with plants, with animals, is because it helps them heal. It's 100% unconditional. You have to love and accept and nurture and learn about this thing. And that's what I want to be able to do, is to create a safe place where kids that are having trouble can come and learn and grow and learn a skill. Cooking, wow. That's what I want. And I figure by putting it out there into the universe, it's going to happen for me.
That's right. That's how it happens, right? You don't have to know how. That's right.
I'm a firm believer in manifestation. And man, one of my best friends is the best manifester I have ever met. Nice. I should start calling her that, manifester.
Listen, you are manifesting something, and I hope to be around to watch that. I share your passion for that and your tears about what all has happened. And so that touches me deeply too. So anybody that's in the future, let's figure out how we can roll our sleeves up and help you accomplish that. But listen, what a pleasure it is to meet you. Mary was right. She will be thrilled to know that this has finally happened, and I now know why.
Well, thank you, Tracy, and thank Mary when you see her.
Well, let's do this again a little bit further down the road when you can tell us about that place, that safe place for kids. Yeah, for sure. And
I want to call it the Farm of Misfit Toys.
Oh, I love it. I love it. For the people that are going to be visiting Santa Fe and are looking for a private chef, how can they find you?
You can go to micachavez.com. And that's my website. You can contact me through there. I am frequently at the Santa Fe School of Cooking doing the show there. I'm around. Nice. It's hard to miss me. I'm driving around in a bright blue Toyota.
Well, I'm planning to be there in September, and I will look you up when I get there for sure. I'd love to meet you. Yeah, I definitely will. And thank you for making the time. What a pleasure it's been. So thank you for your time, and good luck to you.
Thank you. Take good care.
That's all for this episode of Shift Out Loud. Thank you to our guest, Mica. Check out her website at micachavez.com. If you found this episode valuable, be sure to subscribe and share. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on Shift Out Loud.